Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating piece of pop culture history that honestly is almost always taken entirely at face value. I mean, on the surface, it's just a catchy, upbeat pop anthem about a literal party, right? But when you actually sit down and look closely at the text of Party in the USA, it perfectly maps out the psychological journey of geographical displacement. Seriously, we're going to deconstruct this text to show you exactly how a seemingly simple, incredibly bubbly pop narrative brilliantly captures the profound anxiety of culture shock, and ultimately we'll see the mechanics of how we use familiar art to self-soothe and survive in an entirely alien environment.
To really understand this text, we have to start with a central question. What actually happens when a Nashville native steps off a plane into the land of fame and excess? Our protagonist arrives at LAX, entirely displaced. She describes arriving with nothing but a dream and a cardigan. And that cardigan is such a brilliant grounding detail. It's this perfect symbol of softness, comfort, and vulnerability. And it's placed in immediate, stark contrast against the intimidating new world she's stepping into. The stakes are established instantly. She's vulnerable, she's totally out of her element, and she immediately asks herself the ultimate question of imposter syndrome. Am I gonna fit in? So to understand exactly how she copes with all this, we're gonna follow the timeline of her night. We've got her arrival at LAX, that initial cab ride into the city, the experience of entering a nightclub, and finally, the temptation to catch a flight right back home. We're going to treat each of these locations as a distinct trial that she has to overcome, which will really show off the ingenious narrative structure built into this journey. Let's start with her movement from LAX to the taxi. This right here is where the first wave of true anxiety hits. She jumps into a cab, which she points out is her very first time doing so, and she is instantly hit with profound sensory overload. She looks out the window to her right, sees the iconic Hollywood sign, and realizes, as she explicitly states, this is all so crazy, everybody seems so famous. The sheer scale of her new reality is just crushing down on her. The geographical change isn't just an idea in her head anymore, it's a visible, highly intimidating reality rolling past her taxi window. What makes this text so incredibly effective is its vivid literalism. It doesn't rely on abstract metaphors to convey her stress. It grounds her emotional state in very real bodily reactions. Her tummy is turning. She's feeling kind of homesick. There's too much pressure. She's feeling nervous. I mean, this is a clinical description of an anxiety response. The text makes it undeniably clear that the cultural displacement she's experiencing is taking an immediate, literal, physical toll on her body. Now, what's really interesting about this is how the text introduces a solution to this physical crisis. She doesn't just talk herself out of the panic attack. She doesn't rationalize her fears. Instead, an external force intervenes. As the quote says, that's when the taximan turned on the radio and a Jay-Z song was on. This random, anonymous figure, the taximan, becomes the catalyst for her initial cure. He introduces a piece of familiar culture right into that unfamiliar space, completely interrupting her downward psychological spiral. This intervention sets up what we can call the musical catharsis cycle. This is the absolute core problem and solution loop of the entire text. In step 1, she experiences intense pressure and homesickness. In step 2, a familiar song plays over the speakers. And then in step 3, the physical symptoms dissipate. Or, as the text poetically puts it, the butterflies fly away. The psychological relief instantly manifests as physical release. She starts nodding her head, she starts moving her hips. The tension literally leaves her body because the music has created a safe, recognizable space inside that unfamiliar taxicab. But the journey doesn't end in the taxi. Our protagonist finally arrives at her destination, the club. And here, the pacing shifts entirely. We are introduced to the second crisis. If the taxi ride was about the intimidation of the city itself, the club is all about the intimidation of the people. As soon as she steps out of that cab, a whole new wave of tension washes over her. The anxiety cycle completely restarts because, as she notes, everybody is looking at her now. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between her authentic hometown identity and the intimidating reality of her new environment. Back home, she's a girl rockin' kicks at a Nashville party, but now she stepped into a room full of stilettos in the land of fame and excess. It is a massive culture clash boiled down entirely to footwear. People are staring at her sneakers, instantly marking her as someone from out of town. The visual gap between who she is and where she is literally couldn't be wider. Which brings us to this profound sense of isolation, captured perfectly in the line,
I guess I never got the memo. She is entirely disconnected from the social rules of this new world. And to make matters worse, she explicitly states that it's so hard with my girls not around me. Her support system is gone. She is navigating this completely alien social hierarchy completely alone, acutely aware that she does not fit the visual aesthetic expected of her. Because she's facing a brand new threat, social alienation rather than geographical intimidation, the text repeats a crucial motif. Her tummy is turning again. She's feeling homesick again. The pressure and the nerves are right back where they started. The text uses this exact repetition to prove that this new environment has triggered the precise physiological stress response she experienced earlier. The crisis has returned in full force. So once again, she is trapped in a spiral of anxiety. And then, once again, salvation arrives not from within, but from an external musical intervention. That's when the DJ dropped my favorite tune and a Britney song was on. A new anonymous figure, the DJ instead of the taxman, and a new artist, Britney instead of Jay-Z, provide the exact same cure. It is a brilliant structural mirror of the first crisis. It reinforces the idea that the specific person or the specific genre doesn't actually matter. What matters is the familiarity of the art. So the crucial point is the universal grounding power of music. The physical reaction she has in the club is identical to the one she had in the taxi. Because a familiar song comes on, her hands go up, the butterflies fly away, and she begins nodding her head and moving her hips. The party in the USA resumes. The music acts as a protective shield. Even though she's still wearing cakes in a room full of stilettos, the song anchors her, making the environment suddenly tolerable and, hey, even enjoyable. However, the text introduces one final overarching conflict. We can call this the flight risk. Despite the temporary reprieves in the taxi and the club, the underlying pressure of displacement is heavy. The text reveals that she frequently feels an overwhelming urge to just flee. As she sings, she feels like hopping on a flight back to my hometown tonight. The temptation to abandon the dream, to pack up that cardigan and run back to safety is a constant looming presence. But she doesn't flee. And this quote explains exactly why. Something stops me every time the DJ plays my song and I feel all right. Familiar music acts as a permanent, reliable anchor. It stops her from fleeing the pressure every single time. It's not just a one-off distraction in a taxi or a lucky moment in a club. It's a vital, recurring coping mechanism. The art connects her back to herself, providing just enough comfort to keep her from getting on that plane. Ultimately, the absolute biggest takeaway from this explainer is a message of self-assurance. The recurring realization throughout the text is simple but undeniably powerful. I know I'm going to be okay. This isn't just a song about having a good time. It's a narrative about surviving extreme displacement and culture shock through the comfort of familiar art. The protagonist faces the terrifying landscape of fame and excess, battles seemingly severe physical symptoms of anxiety. And I mean, yes, we are still talking about a bubbly Miley Cyrus song here, but the stakes feel incredibly real to her. And she navigates profound social isolation, all by allowing music to ground her reality. Which brings us to the end of our journey and leaves us with a question for you to ponder. Look, we all face moments where we step into a room and realize we're wearing sneakers when everyone else is wearing stilettos. Next time you feel completely out of place in a new environment, what song will be your anchor? What piece of familiar art will make your butterflies fly away? Think about it. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll see you on the next explainer.